welcome to another amazing episode of Ben and Curt Till It Hurts, the culture cast caught the crossroads of curation and castration. I'm Ben.
And I'm Curt.
And we are the two hosts of this podcast.
All day long.
Soon to be an X podcast.
Yes. Welcome to the last episode.
Welcome to the finale, everybody. How are you, Curtis? Let's push the movie back, because once we start talking about this movie, this podcast is over, all right? How are you, while I still like you as a friend?
You know, I don't know. This has just been a weird week, and I guess I'm okay. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm fine. Mm-hmm. How are you?
I'm great, because I've watched Mulholland Drive twice in the past week.
Okay.
I feel awesome. I feel like my life has changed. I'm a new person. I'm a better person.
And that's what you want to talk about this week.
That's what I would like to talk about this week.
I was thinking maybe we could change it up.
Maybe we could do something.
Talk about Fallout.
Do something we never do, which is talk about anything other than the topic of the show.
Yeah, I mean we could we could go real crazy and talk about spring or the weather or hopes and dreams.
Yeah, our great spring weather. The snowstorms constantly fucking us.
Literally anything but this movie, because I want our friendship to last.
Our friendship will last through the ages, Curtis, and Mulholland Drive can't rip us apart. How's Fallout 4 going? Did you finish it?
I did.
Have we talked about that already?
I can't remember.
I don't know.
I finished it.
Better or worse than Mulholland Drive?
Fucking way better, 100 times better. Not even.
Yeah, boy.
Would you rather play Fallout or get kicked in your groin? Probably play Fallout. I think would. Would I rather watch Mulholland Drive or get kicked in the groin? I can say that getting kicked in the groin wouldn't take 2.5 hours of my life.
This is a divisive film.
So
you're done with Fallout 4?
Yes. Although I instantly restarted it.
Yeah.
Those I'm going for those. Achievements and doing a different play style, but that's all. That's all my life is just starting a new Fallout file over again. That's just over and over.
You started enough on New Vegas that the game was finally like, hey, listen, we need to talk, Curtis. Please stop. You've done this over and over again. It's like the Undertale thing. You ever play Undertale?
No.
Spoilers for Undertale, everybody. If you haven't played Undertale, you should probably play Undertale. Are you going to play Undertale, Curtis?
Probably not.
What happens at the end of Undertale is it's this game where you kind of go through and like a classic RPG. You meet all these characters and you get to know them. And at the end of the game, you get to make a decision that affects the future of those characters. And I think once you make that decision, the game says, now you can't come back and play this game again. Oh. Because if you do, you're essentially forcing these characters to live these lives over and over again. It's like a heartfelt cry for the reality, for treating video game characters as though they're in some sense real people. Maybe you should be treating the people of the Mojave Wasteland as though they're real, not just puppets for you to.
When you make a game that I can get every achievement in one file, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. I'll play it once and call it a day. Mm-hmm. I think it would be interesting if games stopped working after that's what I want. After you unlock the last achievement in a game, I want the game to just brick my console, even the whole console.
The whole console. Shut it down.
Nope, you are done. You really want to do it again? Buy a new one.
Buy another Xbox.
Yep. No, that's probably not a very sound business model.
No, I think there might be some legal issues with that too.
Anyway.
Yeah.
You been playing Fallout 4 too, or
no,
is that just my life?
Never. It's just you. What have I been doing other than watching some YouTube? Yeah. Yeah. Nothing to comment on.
Okay. All right.
I've been reading a novel, Curtis. It's a big one. We don't talk about books on this show.
What?
But
books?
Yeah. The fuck are those? Are those movies for old people?
Some kind of nerd? Anyway.
Let's pull the Band-Aid off.
Let's just do it.
I just came here from Deep River, Ontario, and now I'm in this dream place. I don't know who I am. That money, you don't know where it came from.
Oh, by the way, those 2 detectives came by again looking for you.
Someone is in trouble. Something bad is happening.
Now you got me scared.
There is no band, and yet we hear a band.
Silencio. remember something. What is it, Rita? What is it? What do you see? Mulholland Drive.
What did you think of Mulholland Drive?
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I really didn't like it.
Yeah.
Now, do you want me to say the nice version of why I didn't like it? Or maybe the more blunt version of why I didn't like it?
Why don't you give me the unvarnished truth?
It felt like a poor man's Pulp Fiction.
What?
Yeah.
The fuck you talking about?
Just weird.
Because it took place in L.A.?
It's a series of vignettes that take place in L.A. that interconnect, kinda, about these different people. Yeah, okay, yeah. Starting to sound... if I said that, you would say, oh, you're talking about Pulp Fiction. And I'd say, yeah, I am.
I object to your characterization of Mulholland Drive. What do you think happened in this movie? Curtis, describe the plot of Mulholland Drive to me.
Let me tell you what I think was going on. Mm-hmm. Usually when we do, it's not uncommon in these Lynch movies for me to watch it and say, yeah, I don't really know what was going on there. I don't know if I liked it. And then I'll read about it and I'll say, you know what? I actually, now that I know that, I do kind of, all right, I get it. And
the Blue Velvet Effect.
The Blue Velvet Effect. That's what we'll call it. Now, when I read more about Mulholland Drive, I liked it less.
Yeah.
So I really was like, after I watched it, I was like, wow, I did not enjoy that movie. And then today I said, all right, let's read the plot summary and then start getting into the details about the movie. And I was like, oh, I like it even less now because
what was your initial take?
That it was not good. It was an incoherent mess.
Whether or not it was good, what was your initial take in terms of like what the movie was about?
It was about. Well, this leads into that.
Okay, all right.
It's important to my argument is that the movie started out as a pilot for a TV series. That was the idea.
Yeah.
And David Lynch wrote it, directed it, filmed it. And then NBC, I think it was.
I thought it was ABC.
Might have been ABC. Said, actually, no, we don't want this.
Yeah, this is too weird.
And then he said, oh, well, I guess I'll make up an ending that forces all of these plot ideas that should have taken place over a whole series to get wrapped up in like 20 minutes. And that's what happened.
That doesn't really tell me what you think the movie is about, though.
Well, okay. We have a woman gets in a car accident and wanders away from the scene of the crash into the apartment of a woman who is just leaving, and then she passes out under a table, and then another woman, our second main character, enters, who appears to be a up-and-coming wannabe actor.
It's a small-town girl from Deep River, Ontario.
From Canada. And then the first woman in the accident realizes she has amnesia, and they spend the rest of the film trying to figure out who she is and where she comes from.
Yep.
That was what I think what David Lynch had originally with no answers, and then just made a bunch of stuff up at the end to shoehorn an ending into the movie.
Okay.
Because I can't really tell you what the second half of that movie's about without saying, oh, it was maybe a dream, I guess, part of it.
No. Curtis, no. It was definitely a dream.
Oh,
there is a shot at the beginning of this movie of the camera laying down on a pillow.
There are people and objects sleeping all over this movie. It's all just sleeping people.
There is a point of view shot of the camera laying down on a pillow. And then the cowboy says, "Time to wake up, pretty girl." And then you get to the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Ugh.
That cowboy.
Yeah.
Curtis, you know how sometimes there's a buggy? Let's just say I'm driving this buggy.
Yeah.
And if you fix your attitude, maybe you can ride along with me.
I think that this movie would have been better if that poor director was put out of his misery at that moment.
Adam Kesher?
Yes. Because then I would have been put out of my misery sooner.
So your main complaint about the movie seems to be nothing makes sense, and there are no answers.
There are no answers. People do assert that there is a story here. I don't see it.
So what is the explanation for the movie? As far as I'm concerned, Ironclad, it's the solution to Mulholland Drive. It's the most consistent solution to Mulholland Drive. Is that the whole movie is the dream of this actress Diane Selwyn, who in her dream she recasts herself as Betty, this like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed new actress in Hollywood, as opposed to the real Diane Selwyn, who's kind of a downer, right? Mm-hmm. And she dreams up this whole affair with her real life lover, Camilla Rhodes, I think.
Yep.
Except in the dream, her real life lover, Camilla Rhodes, now is a woman with amnesia who calls herself Rita, and they go on this journey together. And they end up, like, it culminates in a love scene between the two of them where she professes her love. The tragedy of it is that this dream is something is something Diane is experiencing after she has put out a hit on Camilla because she broke her heart, right? So she's having a dream that is telling her about, like, this is the crux of your relationship with Camilla. You can't have it anymore, but this is what it was. This puts a bow on it. You should feel guilty about what you're doing. And then Diane wakes up to find that the hit has been carried out. She is a murderer now. She can never take that back. Right? Uh-huh. It's a little bit Lost Highway. It's a lot Lost Highway, to be honest. But it delivers upon the promise of what Lost Highway was. Lost Highway was like an early experimental version of Mulholland Drive. So where for you? And now you're claiming that there is no consistency to this movie, that the dream explanation is something that people are imposing upon a structureless, narrative-less film.
I think that it would be impossible to say that this movie has nothing to do with dreams because there's constant sleeping and dream-related things going on. But it's not delivered in a finished or productive way that says, I think that to get that solution, which sounds like a good solution, and I think ultimately is probably better than the solution that I had like chosen for what was going on. I think that is kind of, I think to a certain extent that has to be constructed, and I don't think the movie has any way of saying this is what's happening. I think,
except there is a point of view shot of the camera laying down on a pillow at the beginning,
right?
And then the cowboy says "wake up" at the end of the dream. So it's bookended on both sides, kind of like Blue Velvet, when you go into the ear and you come out of the ear.
Right, but see
Lynch
how
is always using
that
these
was
bookending,
going into an ear and out of an ear.
Yeah,
that's I think that's a pretty straightforward. You notice that twice because it's the same, it's a matching bookend. I think
so because the bookends don't match. Are you saying that the film does not do enough to clue the audience in to the fact that that the first part is a dream?
I think there is so much going on with so many half-constructed and half-finished ideas across the board in this movie that it just doesn't make sense. And even if it takes place in a dream, which sounds like a good solution, it's just not done well.
Tell me about some of these half-constructed ideas.
I think just with all these characters that are in it, I think that it never feels super connected, I think, is part of my problem. There's just, it's a typical, like, I feel like it's the most Lynchian Lynch film exists. There's just characters that are weird and unexplained and you never see again. And
like which ones?
Well, you have the blue-haired lady in the opera, or not the opera, but the stage show. A lot of the mafioso and the guy in the wheelchair,
the Castigliani brothers.
Yeah. And
the people who run Hollywood.
Yeah. There's just a lot
that's perfectly explained though, is the thing. Like that makes sense. Those are the guys that say like, no, this is your girl. You need to cast her. You must cast her. A lot of it seems to be David Lynch exercising some of his Hollywood demons. You know what I mean? Like if you're in Hollywood for any amount of time, it seems like you get the sense that there's a secret Hollywood behind Hollywood that is obsessed with pulling the strings and making certain things happen. And I think much of Mulholland Drive is David Lynch trying to depict that version of Hollywood, the kind of Hollywood that an aspiring yet failing actress would dream about, right? Diane Selwyn has not gotten any substantial roles in her career. All her success so far has been due to the influence of a more successful actress being her lover and getting her bit parts. And now her lover is going away. So her relationship is collapsing and her career is collapsing. So the dream that she has about the situation involves, in part, this mechanized occult version of Hollywood where it's just like small men in large suits sitting in wheelchairs and pulling the strings, telling people, shut it down. It's time to shut it down. Shut the whole thing down. There's an explanation for everything is what I'm saying, right? Like, you know, for a movie that at first glance, this movie is random images being thrown at you. But upon reflection, it is astonishing how well everything fits together.
I will say that sometimes I think that can be true in a movie, but I have a tough time with this because I don't get it. I don't see it. This is a bad movie, Ben. This is not a good movie.
Now, you watched it once, right?
I did watch it once.
Last night.
Yes, last night.
Okay.
And I will never watch it again. I don't know, man.
It was so frustrating an experience that you couldn't find it upon reflection to try to watch it again, to try to put some of the pieces together.
Right.
To kind of see what's going on behind the curtain.
It was paced awfully.
It's paced oddly, for sure.
It was boring, Ben.
What was boring? When did it lose you? What was the first scene that you remember watching where you were like, fuck this?
Literally the title credits with the weird people dancing in front of a green screen.
The like weird swing dancing?
Where you could see the edges of the green screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my shit, dude.
Instantly was like, oh, this is gonna be fucking weird. And, yeah. And then I'm trying to think of the first thing. I know I was instantly turned off. I don't know if this was the first thing, but that the guy, when he kills the people in the office, the 3 people.
Yep. Oh, man.
What a fucking...
That's where it lost my wife, too.
Just an annoying scene. Not... For example, let's compare it to Pulp Fiction. We have the same... I saw an instant relationship with that and the Marvin scene. Mm-hmm. These two characters... they've messed up with something when they were trying to commit a crime, and now they're fixing it, and they're blundering it, and it's funny. This, every time he blundered something, it was just annoying. And it was just a long, drawn-out, annoying scene of watching him fuck up constantly. That instantly was just like, oh my god, get this fucking over with. And then the rest of the movie just proceeded to, well, I wonder what's gonna happen. Oh, okay. Cool.
I think the bungling hitman scene is a pretty challenging scene upon first viewing, for sure. Just silently,
no.
Yeah, silently shaking your head at me. It's like we watched 2 different movies here, Curtis. Here's what I like about the bungling hitman scene. On first viewing, even what I liked about it was that it has this interesting relationship with sound, as in. Well, first off, the conversation that the 2 guys are having at the beginning is genuinely funny. It's like, can you fucking believe it? It's a car crash. And then he shoots him, right? And there's that weird shot of the hair, like the bloody hair coming out of his head. I don't know what that shot means, but it's cool. And
funny, apparently.
No, that part's not funny. It's just weird. There's escalating noise that happens until you get to the point where he shoots the guy with the vacuum. Mm-hmm. And then the vacuum turns on, and he shoots the vacuum instead of walking over to turn it off. Is that does nothing for you?
No, that's the humor.
The idea that the hitman has, it's like if all you have is a hammer, then every problem is a nail, right? All this guy knows. And then, upon farther viewings, knowing that it's a dream, recognizing that part of Diane's fantasy is that the hitman she hired to kill her lover would be so inept that he wouldn't be able to do anything right, adds kind of a layer of tragedy to it as well. Recognizing that these characters are not characters, they are Diane's constructed version of the characters. It also goes a long way towards explaining much of the inconsistency among the characters, and some of the odd pacing, for that matter. I'm not surprised that was the theme that I thought would lose you.
Yeah.
When I was asking that question.
It definitely did.
Yeah, and just nothing after that grabbed you.
No.
The all the Nancy Drew, like the let's solve a mystery together stuff.
No.
It did nothing for you.
Did
Let's go
nothing
visit
for
your
me.
apartment. Well, what about the Adam Kesher stuff? Did you like Billy Ray Cyrus?
Was he
He was the pool man.
The pool man? Yeah.
Yeah.
That I didn't know that was Billy Ray Cyrus until the credits, and I saw his name, and I was like, that must have been the pool guy.
The pool guy, yeah.
Well,
But like the weird Zen, like, well, Lorraine, he's probably upset.
yeah. No,
Yeah,
I did get one good...
You're a sourpuss.
Yeah, that's what it is. When I did get one good laugh in the movie when the giant mafia guy in the suit, the woman was like climbing him and trying to fight him, and he just threw her on the floor. Yeah, that's
like
what he was. He
bops her
punched her
on
in
the
the face. That was unexpected.
A little bit of slapstick humor.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, I can feel that.
Yeah.
I like that part too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
No,
what now?
I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know, man. I don't even know what to say about this movie. I
What do
sat
you-
through it and I thought it was awful.
When you think about this movie, what does it make you think of?
A poor man's
Do a little
Pulp
bit
Fiction.
of association. See, now that's just not right. That's just as much as an utterance can be uttered, it can be objectively wrong.
You know,
Why poor man's?
Because when Quentin Tarantino, this movie showed me that when Quentin Tarantino started making movies, people said, "Oh, there's some Lynchian aspects to these movies."
I think those people are kind of wrong too, but
I do too, but it's weird, like when I watched Wild at Heart, I can kind of see it, but I'm from such a Tarantino world that I don't see any Lynchian things in Tarantino movies, but I see Tarantino things in Lynchian movies that came out before Tarantino, so
yeah.
I guess I'm kind of... I recognize that it's there, but I don't really agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
I see that Tarantino surpassed the person that he was being compared to rather quickly. That's what this movie taught me.
I do think probably that Quentin Tarantino is a better filmmaker than David Lynch, but they're aiming at different targets. That's the beginning and end of it, really. Like Quentin Tarantino is aiming at being a playwright, and frankly, he's one of the best. He's one of the best playwrights of the modern age. It's just that he happens to have this cinematic flourish to his films. He's as much a great filmmaker as he is a great writer, but I think that a lot of people don't appreciate just how good a writer he is and how much care and attention he puts into constructing his scripts. David Lynch is trying to depict dreams on the... Curtis is just going to turn my...
I was turning you up, actually.
I know. But as I saw you reach over to the board, I was like, no, all right. This is the Curtcast now. David Lynch is trying to depict dreams on the screen. And insofar as that has been his mission throughout his whole career, Mulholland Drive is maybe the single greatest dream film ever put on celluloid, whatever which one is the stuff inside the body? Which
Cellulite is not the one we're talking about.
Ever put on film?
You know, see, I don't. Maybe with like, I'm trying to quickly rack over the David Lynch films in my head. Dreams are not something that I think about. I don't think very frequently when I think about David Lynch films. I think
that's a statement no one has ever made before.
Well,
dreams? Nah, David Lynch doesn't make me think about dreams.
No, truly, the thing that I think of the most when I watch his movies is I don't know the right word for it, but I will use the word disturbed. Something disturbed David Lynch in his life, or David Lynch is disturbed, and his cinematic scope is a way to see kind of how he views the world. That is pretty much what I think of when I've watched all of his movies. It all seems like it comes from a person who doesn't fit in or is scared of or dislikes most of what he has experienced, and he tries to find the good in it or reflect back on how he interprets the world around him. I don't think of dreams. Maybe in Eraserhead, because Eraserhead's pretty different from the rest of them. But I don't know, man.
You don't think of dreams, but where do our disturbing experiences manifest aside from in dreams? Also, like Blue Velvet, in dreams I walk with you, in dreams I talk to you, in dreams you're mine. All the time, forever in dreams. That doesn't make you think of dreams when the villain of the movie recited that Roy Orbison song in dreams.
See, but that's one of those things though that I feel like I have to give credit to my wife for, where there's so much weird shit that gets thrown in your face in a David Lynch movie that I feel like most of it is just like in one ear and out the other, because you're so busy trying to remember it all and process the significance of every little thing in the movie that, yeah.
I find that I don't really process while I'm watching a David Lynch movie, though. I usually, I try to pay as much attention as I can to the movie itself while I'm watching it. And then afterward, I go over the movie in my mind and think about it. And that's when I make a lot of connections. I'll just kind of do a free association. I try to enter what you might call a reverie, right? A state of daydreaming. I'll daydream about a David Lynch movie and just kind of remember scenes as they come to me. And
that
then
sounds like a poorly written film to me.
And then the connections start to make themselves in my mind.
That sounds not good to me, because that makes me think of having to look at like a pile of, I won't say junk, but a pile of stuff and sift through for the good things.
It's not
the things that are relevant to what you're looking for.
It's all relevant is the thing, because eventually, if it's a well-made movie, and Mulholland Drive is an exquisitely well-made movie, eventually everything connects to everything else. It's a densely interconnected text, because what you're seeing is the inside of Diane Selwyn's mind for the first 2 hours of the movie, which is something that who else has done that in a film? Who else has even aimed at that goal in a film, if indeed that was the goal of Mulholland Drive? Like, I know David Lynch will never tell anybody what the goal of any of his movies is, because he's a great artist, but that's such a unique aim for a film, and I think it's executed so well that Mulholland Drive just has to be applauded for it. And it's fun. It's a good movie because I think it's fun to think about. It's fun to just let your mind wander and think, like, what's going on with Winkies? Why is that? Why the scene in Winkies with the two characters who never really show up again? And
why is that?
Because Winkies is where she conducts the transaction that gets Camilla killed. So Winkies is the center of all the darkness in her mind. In the moment she makes the deal with the hitman, she looks up and she sees that guy standing over by the counter, over by the cash register. And then he's the guy telling his therapist in Diane's dream about this dream that he had. It's a character in a dream describing his own dream. I don't know. I think that's cool. Just like, anyway, that's what it is. That's why the weird guy behind Winkies also, he represents the darkest part of Diane's psyche.
And related to him on a physical level from inside of the dream of Diane.
Because he's the man that she looked at, and she thought he was judging her even though he had no reason to judge her. He doesn't know her. But when she looked at him, she saw his gaze, and she interpreted judgment from it because of how profoundly she was judging herself, or how profoundly God was judging her in that moment for committing that act of evil.
And so how does that turn to him where he describes his dream and then sees the physical monster?
She transforms, in the dream, she transforms herself into him because he is associated with Winkies. And he describes this center of darkness, right? The monster, the most horrifying thing he's ever seen. It's all very free associative. It doesn't make literal sense, because dreams don't make literal sense. They make symbolic sense. And Mulholland Drive makes a great deal of symbolic sense while making almost no literal sense. And I think that's quite a stunt. I think that's a pretty wet stunt. No?
Nope, can't get on board with it.
It's okay. That's okay. The cowboy's an interesting one, too. Did you notice the cowboy at the party scene later on in the movie?
Yep.
That shows you the moment she decides to kill Camilla. And it's not the moment Camilla is that it's not the moment Diane realizes that Camilla and Adam are getting married. It's the moment that other blonde walks up.
Are they getting married?
Yeah, that's what they're announcing.
Do they say that?
It's implied.
Oh, okay.
they like Adam says he does I have an announcement to make, guys, and then they can't make the announcement because they're kissing so much. Now it's arguable as to whether or not that's literally what happened, or if that's just because we're getting even the events of the last 20 to 30 minutes of the film are not necessarily literally true. It's flashbacks into Diane's memories. So in her memory, they were so busy smooching on each other that they couldn't even make the announcement. But what I took from that was that they were getting married. What other explanation is there?
Oh, I figured it could have been that, or announced that
guys were adopting a puppy together,
or that they were going to have a baby, because it was never said, I don't think, in that if they were already married or just dating. Or
that's true. Whatever the case may be, it's an announcement it's an announcement about. I mean, it would be kind of weird to kiss that much if you were making an announcement about having a baby.
It would be kind of weird to kiss that much to announce that you were getting married.
Yeah, and they are, but I think it would be more out of place to do that if the implication was supposed to be that they were having a baby than if they were getting married. I think there's more passion around the idea of marriage than there is around the idea of having a baby. As a person who is both married and has a baby, I can tell you that. But when that other blonde walks up and Camilla starts smooching on her too, and Diane realizes, like, okay, not only am I out, but she still has a side bitch. It's just not me. Mm-hmm. It's not that she wants to live a family life with Adam. She still wants to live the same kind of libertine actress lifestyle, but she just doesn't want me anymore. And in that moment, she sees the cowboy.
Okay. Yeah. This must be what everybody in the world feels like when I describe why Batman vs. Superman is a good movie.
I kind of agree with you about Batman vs. Superman. It's a unique take on the Batman-Superman dynamics, but that doesn't make it bad. Everybody's complaint about Batman v Superman, the court case of the century, is that like, no, that's not how Batman acts. That's not how Superman acts. And it's like, no, that's how he's making them act that way to make a point about the characters. Am I right or am I wrong?
I think that when it comes to, maybe this has helped. I don't know.
We'll do the Snyder series eventually, but
I don't even want to do a Snyder series.
Give me your quick hot take. Dude, the Snyder series is what's going to break us through into the big time, all right? Nerds are thirsty. Nerds, close your ears. Nerds are thirsty for comic book movie content, and I am willing to do Zack Snyder's films. I'm not willing to do any fucking Marvel movies. Zack Snyder's a great filmmaker.
That good ideas don't equal good movies. And I think that, as much as I hate to admit it, I will lump it in. Well, going over the far-reaching realms of the conversations you and I have had, Star Wars Episode 1 has some good ideas. Not a good movie. Batman vs. Superman has some good ideas. Everybody else apparently will tell you it's not a good movie. Mulholland Drive might have some good ideas. Not a good movie. That's where I'm coming.
Mulholland Drive is a hard movie. It's certainly not an easy movie, and it kind of takes multiple viewings to put it together. It's a movie with a twist at the end that makes the rest of the movie make sense retroactively. So, like, I realize I'm being that guy right now. And I just want everyone to know that I am conscious of that I am, in fact, being that guy, and I want you all to know that I don't want to be. But I have to be. Mulholland Drive is making me be that guy. It's like, yeah, it's a movie that really, it takes some work. So, but if you reach out to it, it reaches back.
Man, I can't get behind that, and I don't know.
Clearly.
Yeah, clearly.
It's all right. It's okay. Not everybody has to like the things I like. Did you stay awake through the movie?
I did.
Okay.
But it reminded me of...
Did you check your phone at all?
Probably. I don't know. It reminds me of when I used to have a part-time job at the record store that I didn't like working there anymore. And I worked there on Tuesday nights, which coincidentally was the day that I watched this movie. And so... Now,
this is the kind of dream logic, this kind of free associative. Okay. All right, let this flow. I like this.
So, Monday sucks because you have to work 2 shifts the next day. Tuesday sucks because you get out of work and then you have to go back to work. And then Wednesday sucks because you just worked 2 shifts and now you have to work another shift.
There's a lot of suck going on here.
Mulholland Drive was equally as taxing and as suck as working a second shift job.
So it
was literally a job to me.
Yeah, it ruined Monday as well?
It ruined 3 days.
It ruined Monday.
It ruined...
Sounds like you might have gone into this movie with a bad attitude.
I didn't want...
If it had already ruined 1 day for you, you're not going to give it a fair shake.
No, and then, so it's ruined, like, this part of Wednesday is okay.
Yes.
So
I enjoy podcasting with you,
ruined
Curtis.
3 days of my life.
Yep. How does that make you feel?
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm complaining about having to, I put myself through this to do, a podcast. So I really did it to myself, but not good.
I think it's fair. We'll get more into this with the wrap-up episode. But I do think that it's fair for us to say that I did this to you. You suggested Eraserhead, and then I kind of hustled us into a whole David Lynch series.
That's
kind
true.
of knowing that it would be. It's a little like the back and forth that you do with your esoteric hobbies and interests.
Right.
Where it's like, how much can I get away with? Right.
But at the time, I had not seen any of them.
Yeah.
And I was looking forward to it. I thought I was going to enjoy it more.
I had seen enough of them to kind of know what I was doing, and for that, I'm not sorry, but...
Well, I'm not sorry that I like movies, so I'm not sorry...
I was starting to doubt this with the whole...
that I watched... I'm not sorry that I watched any of these movies, because at least now I have the experience, and I'm now part of the conversation. Mm-hmm. I can be part of that David Lynch conversation when I say I don't like his movies. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, I don't know. I just, I'm really glad this is over. I'm really glad that we have a wrap-up, and then we'll get
we get to watch some good movies.
We'll move on to some other things. Some good movies.
Some real masterpieces.
Some albums.
Looking forward to the albums.
Me too. Yeah, I think that if you have a good idea it can make a good movie, but it's up to not just the director, but it's up to many people to make that good idea a good movie. And I think a lot of David Lynch's movies come from one or two good ideas that he decided to make into a movie without fully following through on the rest of what it takes to make a good movie.
Well, I disagree, but I think that David Lynch in Mulholland Drive speaks a little bit to this idea of like, where does a good movie come from? With the scene where Betty does like the rehearsal with Rita, and her line delivery is all flat and the script is obviously junk, and then she goes into the audition and delivers that like incredible scene with the actor opposite her. I think that's pretty powerful. Did you like that scene?
I mean, it was. I don't think I disliked it, but it was.
Do you remember that scene?
I do remember that scene. The man was much older than I thought he would be. That was one of the things that I found significant in that scene.
It's her father's best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes sense for him to be old.
Man.
It all makes sense. You can't point to any part of Mulholland Drive that doesn't make sense.
I mean,
I challenge you.
So the problem that we're facing is that I didn't like the movie, and I don't think it was a good movie.
Yeah.
And I think you're pretty cemented to the idea that it is indeed a good movie, and if you don't think it's a good movie, clearly you just don't understand something that's happening.
Like I said, I know that I'm being that guy,
and that
I know
if I just understood, I would realize that it was a good movie.
The central disconnect here. Well, you're taking the thriller position, which is that this is a pile of disconnected images that don't make any sense. That there is no central thesis to the film. I just think that's an untenable position.
I will say that I don't. Maybe that's not it.
You think it's poorly constructed or poorly communicated?
The idea is there, and it's there. It's just not presented well, and there's too much white noise. And you can say, oh, that's because it's a dream, so it's symbols in a dream, and dreams don't make sense. So why
Dreams do make sense. Dreams do make sense. It's just not literal sense. It's symbolic sense. It's two different things.
So why would they make sense in the movie? And I just don't buy it. I just think that this, even if that was like, that makes sense. But when I watched this movie and then read about it, it so just clearly felt, it made sense that it was a TV pilot that got stretched into a movie. That feels like what it is.
I don't think it got stretched. I think it got transformed into a movie. I think that David Lynch was probably pretty conscious. And at times in the film, he is even consciously playing with the tropes of television. Like the scene with the hitman.
And that's not because it's leftovers from a television show.
It's not leftovers. It's the pieces that were going to be a television show that were then turned into a movie.
Right. So it was written for a TV show and then changed to a movie.
It was written to be a 2-hour pilot for a television show.
Right.
Which is essentially a film. It's just a TV movie.
It just didn't have any endings because David Lynch was like, oh, if you want endings, you got to pick up the pilot.
He put an ending on the movie. The movie has an ending.
An ending that would have been much better if it didn't have this many pieces, because it wasn't supposed to be a series of shows about these different characters that are connected.
I don't think that it's possible for us to say what Mulholland Drive, the television show, was going to be or was supposed to be, because it doesn't exist. What does exist is the film Mulholland Drive. Who knows what direction David Lynch would have taken it in had it been picked up? Who knows if it... There's no... I don't see the value in speculating about that. Because the reality is that it wasn't picked up, and then those same pieces got put together into a film.
But they were put together in a way that there was...
Well, okay, the thing is, the first 2 hours of the movie are not exactly what the pilot would have been. Because he didn't just shoot the ending.
Right.
He also shot other pieces in the middle. So, without being able to have any certainty about which piece of the first 2 hours was or was not going to be in the original pilot, I don't think that we have any ground to stand on speculating what the original pilot would or would not have been like.
I don't think that it was the 2 hour pilot and then, 20 minutes of added on footage. I think it was ideas that were too complicated to work in this movie that would have made more sense if they had more story arcs, more time to develop, and be more time to write and finish what was going on. I think that...
What's too complicated? The idea that it was a dream?
No, just... You had all... I just felt like there were so many characters, which doesn't mean that it's bad, because like I said, Pulp Fiction does that well. It handles those things, and their stories
The
connect.
Pulp Fiction comparison again. They're very different things. Pulp Fiction is an anthology. Mulholland Drive is a more or less linear story.
I think you could swap out of sequence anthologies with this part's in a dream and then this part's not in a dream.
I definitely don't agree with that. I think that those are very different things. Pulp Fiction is 4 different stories, three central anthological, that's not a word, 3 central pieces, and then the framing story around it of the diner. Mulholland Drive is one story, kind of the intercut stories of Betty and Rita and Adam, the director, which then meet at a head point. And then, subsequently, the explanation, the key that decodes the first 2 hours of the movie, comes right at the end. It's a very different thing from Pulp Fiction. I really don't see the comparison.
Man, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. That's all right.
I just, I think with the depth that we were given with some of these characters, we can't just say, like, that it's about these two people. Like, it is about these two women, but the amount of things that were shown with the director of the film and his wife, and then a hitman who has scenes by himself.
I think he only has one scene by himself.
Well, he has the robbing scene, and then he has that scene out where he's talking to the two women outside.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have
that is weird.
The stuff with... so we have the stuff in the diner, which at the time is very disconnected and leads you to believe that it's its own thing.
Yeah, comes very early in the movie as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
If what he was, I think what he was trying to do makes sense. It was just done poorly, making a good idea in a not great movie. It makes sense to me why the people that like this movie like it, because it's not like it's completely random, incoherent garbage. The idea is there. Mm-hmm. It's just not delivered well. I just think you kind of you are the detective while you're watching the movie, and you're trying to figure out what's going on, and the answers don't feel satisfying once you piece them together. That's how I felt.
Well, it's I think maybe the central philosophical dilemma here for us is whether or not a film should be... whether or not you should walk out of a movie saying, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know what that was. And I don't necessarily think that every movie should leave you confounded, but I really do believe that there should be room for movies. There should be room in our hearts for movies that make you take that extra couple steps because it's a rewarding experience.
I would certainly agree with that, but I don't think that every movie should follow any rule across the board. But I think that if you want to take that if you want to break away one of those rules that, you look at a conventional movie. I don't know an example.
A normal-ass movie.
Just the most normal-ass movie.
What's the normal... My wife and I were talking about this the other day, in the context of Mulholland Drive. What is the most normal movie you can think of?
I can think of things that are in the most aspects
it's
of...
called Old Dogs.
the most normal movie. It's 90 minutes long.
Uh-huh.
It has a main character that you like. It has a bad guy that you do not like.
Uh-huh.
And with I'm willing on any of those rules I'm willing to break any of those rules. I don't think any movie should have to follow that rule, but it needs to be delivered well. If you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to make a not regular ass movie. I'm going to make people think a little bit. You gotta deliver it in a way that makes sense.
In a way that is easily comprehensible after a single viewing?
No.
That is comprehensible after a single viewing.
No piece of art needs to be completely understood the first and only time you watch it.
Okay.
But I just think that there need to be I just think that there are so many, like I said, I keep repeating, but just like so many like aspects of it that he wanted to do for a TV show.
God, stop talking about the TV show, man. I can't get behind you on that because we just don't know. We just don't know what that TV show would have been. So I do see what you're saying. It's like it's a disconnected mishmash, right? There is a central connecting theme, but it's obscure.
Yes,
it's intentionally obscured. It would have been intentionally obscured in a TV show, probably. It's David Lynch, who knows? But yeah, the TV show thing, I can't. That doesn't make any sense. Given what we know, it's too speculative. It's too speculative.
I don't know, man. I just think that that's what it feels like. It feels like there's too much going on that wasn't developed enough, and knowing that it came from what it came from leads me to believe that that's why.
We don't know what it came from.
It came from an idea for a TV show that was filmed as a pilot and then not picked up for a TV show, so the idea was written into a movie. Knowing that makes it feel like these things that I don't find satisfactory, that offers explanations to those things that I find unsatisfactory.
You think that you're saying that there wasn't enough done to turn this pilot into a film.
Yes.
And I'm saying we don't know enough about what that pilot looked like at first to be able to say with any confidence what was or was not done to turn it into a film.
I think that there was too much extra in this movie to say that to make that argument. That I think there were a lot of ideas in this movie that makes these characters all make sense, and they make sense in the part of a TV show where they all have their own arcs and change.
I don't know that that's what the TV show would have been like, though. In fact, I doubt that that's what the TV show would have been like. I absolutely do not think that there are missing character arcs in this film. I think that the lack of character arcs has to do with the fact that it all takes place in a dream.
Yeah.
So they're not characters in a conventional story. You're unsatisfied at the end of the dream. It's like what just happened? They had sex and then they go to this club and it's all a recording. There is no trumpet, but you can hear a trumpet, and the narrative starts to fray at its edges at the end. So whereas the conventional arc for a movie is, and this could go along with your list of conventional like pieces of a normal movie. It's like you have one main character who you like, you have one antagonist that you don't like, and scenes take place in linear or mostly linear order. Along with that, you could say that as the narrative continues, things make more and more sense. But what Mulholland Drive does that is fascinating to me is that it goes against that last one, especially against that last one, because as the narrative continues, for the first 2 hours, things make less and less sense until you reach a breaking point. And then you have a section at the end of the film that makes everything make sense. I think that's a great experiment in narrative. I think it's one of the all-time great films.
Whew.
It's David Lynch's masterpiece. It's one of the all-time great films.
That's rough. I cannot.
And the reason it is such a great movie is because it is such a comprehensible experiment. Hooey.
That's big, Ben. That was a big bite.
It's the shape of the narrative, Curtis.
I don't know. I don't even know.
That's okay. We won't do another one like this for a little while. We'll let it breathe for a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do some one-offs and some simpler stuff.
It's not that it's. I want to get away from this idea that, because I don't agree with the idea that it's like, oh, you got to be so smart to understand this movie, that's why it's good. I know that that's probably what it sounds like I'm saying, but that's really not what I'm trying to say, because I don't think that's what the movie is. Yeah. At its core, it's a very simple movie about guilt and about doing things that you can't take back.
Yeah. I was trying to pull up a particular thing, and I was reading about the production and development of this. This is from Wikipedia. And given this, this is part of where it comes from, where let me read this.
Okay.
Lynch described the attractiveness of the idea of a pilot, despite the knowledge that the medium of television would be constricting. I'm a sucker for a continuing story. Theoretically, you can get a very deep story, and you can go so deep and open the world so beautifully, but it takes time to do that. The story included normal and surreal elements, much like Lynch's earlier series, Twin Peaks. Groundwork was laid for story arcs, such as the mystery of Rita's identity, Betty's career, and Adam Kesher's film project. Now, in that paragraph, all of those things, that's him talking about the idea for the TV show. And we don't know what the TV show was. But all of those things are also in the movie, which leads me to believe that this was, that those were ideas that he was going to develop throughout the TV show and did develop in the movie. And that's where I think he didn't have enough time to do those things in the movie. I think that the movie just bit off a lot, and I think that's where I see the problem. And that paragraph was kind of like what helps me feel like I'm not totally crazy for thinking that most of this would have been in the TV show, but developed over a longer period of time.
They're hooks for a TV show. I think that all this shit would have been in the pilot, and it would have played out differently over time. You would have seen, I don't think that the addition of farther wrinkles to the plot elements present in the dream part of the pilot would have been what got resolution over the course of the season. If I may speculate as well about the nature of this television show, I think that what likely would have been developed over a longer period of time was the fact that this surreal part was the dream of Diane Selwyn. I think that if anything would have been more easily comprehensible over the course of the TV show, it would not have been these subplots that feel like these weird, surreal, conventional TV aspects. I think it would have been the last 20 to 30 minutes of the film would have been drawn out over the course of a longer series of television. And I think that that's part of what I really love about the last 30 minutes of the movie, is that there's so much put in there. There's so much detail in that last 20 to 30 minutes and they're all very striking images as well. You don't forget any of those things. The scene of her masturbating on the couch is like heart-wrenching, and her like looking at the stones on the wall as they go in and out of focus, and realizing that what she's doing is not like an emotional act. It's like it's a visceral, sort of grief-stricken masturbatory act like nothing else on film, depicted with such a slow revelation of what's going on. It's like you see her crying, and then you realize as it pans down her body what's going on. And by that point, you've realized what has happened. She has lost this relationship with Camilla. Yeah. I think that's what would have been expanded over the course of the series. I think that I don't think that the movie does drop or not resolve plot threads from the dream. But I think that's justifiable because it's a dream. And because it does all come to a conclusion in the last 20 to 30 minutes of the movie. Like, if you want to know more about Adam Kesher's film project, like, more power to you, but that just didn't. It was fun to see those wheels spin, but I didn't feel like I needed to know what happened with that. I felt like I needed to know about Rita's amnesia.
I agree, and that's why I think there was far too much. There shouldn't have been Adam Kesher's, I'm the director, and then I go home and my wife is cheating on me, so I pour paint on her jewelry. And if I'm interested in Rita's amnesia, I don't need to know about the guy who saw her when she was in the diner, then being at that table at the diner, telling about a dream he had about a monster behind the diner, and then we go behind the diner and there's a monster back there. That stuff all, if it didn't need to be expanded upon, it shouldn't have been in there. I think the main plot course for this movie works, and it works well, but there's just so much added into it that overall added to the whole course of the movie that it just becomes too big, too unwieldy. Just, you have your shitty criminal, and, there's just all these points in the movie that just, why is this here? If it doesn't matter, what we care about is Rita and her amnesia and her relationship with, what's her name? Betty, then, or whatever what's her real name?
Call her Betty. She's Betty in the dream.
Then the rest of it doesn't need to be here. It's just ideas that are there that don't need to be.
And I think that they are valuable because what you really care about in retrospect, like the Mulholland Drive that exists while you watch it is different from the Mulholland Drive that exists in your mind after you've watched it. And in in Mulholland Drive as a complete work, what matters is Diane Selwyn's mental state. All those pieces don't matter to the plot, but they matter to what's happening inside of Diane's mind. That's how they justify themselves to me. The criminal is important because he is the criminal that she hired to kill Camilla. The guy in the diner is important because the diner is where she did the deed.
Yeah.
If you don't care about Diane, then you don't care about Mulholland Drive, I guess. But if you do, if you find it in your heart to care about Diane, then Mulholland Drive is one of the most intense character studies I've ever seen. It's from a weird angle, but it is such a close look at the psyche of a person who has just committed murder that it belongs in the pantheon of great films.
I don't know, man. I just can't get into that.
You don't care about Diane?
I care about Diane,
Okay.
which is why I don't need to care about everything around it that doesn't add to... She hires a hitman to kill the love of her life who has rejected her. I don't care if he's a good hitman or a bad hitman, or if he kills...
He's a good hitman, because he successfully kills Camilla.
I don't think that makes you a good hitman.
What?
A good hitman is killing a person and then getting away unnoticed away with it.
In her dream, she wants him to be a bad hitman, which tells you about Diane.
Man, I don't think so. I just don't. I think there's just too much extra.
I don't think there's any extra. I think that it all justifies itself by looking at it from the psychological, surreal perspective. I think that it all justifies itself in the end. Hey, Mulholland Drive. It ain't for everybody.
I saw that it was the winner of the 2001 Cannes Film.
Well deserved.
Well deserved. Do you know what it went up against?
What?
Fucking Shrek and Moulin Rouge.
And at Cannes?
Yeah.
Imagine being at Cannes and watching fucking Shrek.
I think Shrek is a better movie than fucking Mulholland Drive.
You're saying that to provoke me. That's fine.
I really like.
Would you have liked Mulholland Drive better if fucking Smash Mouth played?
Yeah, probably yes. Probably. Although I did in typical bad David Lynch movie happenings. Mm-hmm. I really liked the music in it, and
Angelo Badalamenti.
Yeah, and Naomi Watts gave a fucking killer performance.
Crackerjack performance. Holy smokes.
Yeah, but I just feel like it didn't deliver. Ugh.
It delivered to me something that will stay with me for the rest of my life.
Okay. Well, that's like an hour anyway. So.
Yeah, we're done here.
Anything else?
Ugh. Let's not do one like this again. This doesn't feel good.
Next week, we're gonna wrap this up.
Do we really want to do a wrap up episode, or is this just gonna be contentious again?
We gotta do a wrap up.
All right.
We gotta lay it out.
We'll give our rankings. We'll give our
final thoughts of each film, given the context of the rest of them. We may have a guest. We may not.
We might. Hey, get with us, man.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. We gotta, maybe. Do you think this would have been a better or worse series if we had guests throughout it?
I think it's hard to make most people care much about David Lynch movies.
Yeah. They're
tough. They're stringy.
Yeah.
They don't sit well.
True.
They're certainly not like other movies. That's what some people like about them. That's what some people hate about them.
So we'll do that next week. Is there anything else?
What are we doing after that? Do we want to?
Do we want
to come out with this? Do we want to get everybody ready? Because this is what I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I'm excited as well.
Next week's. I'm a little worried about next week.
Next
honestly.
week will be fine.
I'm a little worried about our next episode.
Next week we're just gonna rank the movies, and for me, this is what I was thinking of for next week. It will include ranking the movies, which will help give context to how you feel about them in regards to each other.
Yeah.
Which I think is important. Whether they're ranked or not, a wrap-up episode I think is important to what do we think about Elephant Man now that we've seen Mulholland Drive?
I really don't like it. We'll talk about it next week.
We'll talk about it. And I think that's important. And
yeah, give context, because really the goal of this series is to put David Lynch's career in context. Though, having read a little bit, so we're not going to do this on the podcast because I think we're pretty much. Curtis, I'm never going to make you watch Inland Empire. Based on what I know about Inland Empire, you really don't want to watch that movie. You're not going to want to watch Inland Empire.
That's fine.
I'll definitely watch Inland Empire someday.
Yeah.
Right?
It'll find a way. It'll get a Criterion release, and you'll be able to.
I'll figure it out. I'll connect the dots. Yeah. But also, the other thing I'm going to do is I really want to watch Twin Peaks now.
Yeah.
And I
don't like Twin Peaks.
I especially want to watch Twin Peaks: The Return, which sounds like it's 18 hours of pure Mulholland Drive realness, man. It sounds like they really let David Lynch get out of hand on Twin Peaks Season 3.
My initial thoughts when I finished Mulholland Drive, where it won all these awards.
It's an excellent film. It should have won many awards.
Well, I mean, it won compared to, Shrek. And Moulin Rouge. Part of me felt, before reading anything, and I can't commit to this now, but part of me was like, this must have just been everybody, like David Lynch finally did another movie and everybody was like apologizing for never giving him credit.
That's offensive. You're saying that this was his fucking, what's the Scorsese one? I forget. It's the Whoopsie Daisy award.
It's the, you know what, you were 20 years ahead of us and we slept on you all these years. Yeah. Now millennials have gone back and watched these movies and realized that, you know what, Blue Velvet's pretty great, Eraserhead's pretty great. Mm-hmm. We're sorry we didn't give you that when it happened, so here's your... The
problem is Mulholland Drive is better than the rest of those movies even. It's an actual factual masterpiece.
Okay.
I'm just saying that's the problem with your theory. Is Curtis, I like...
that's all you're doing.
Curtis, I like what you're saying, but there is one fault.
It can't be an apology award because Mulholland Drive is one of the greatest films ever created.
Yeah, that's the one... You failed to take into account that Mulholland Drive is an actual great movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now knowing that it's one of the greatest movies ever made, these awards are making more sense.
It kind of pulls it all together.
Because I was really confused about why it won so many awards.
Well, it was confusing, yeah.
Now that I know that it's the greatest movie,
yeah,
it makes sense now.
I'm not going to say it's the greatest movie.
It's
one of the greatest movies.
It's one of them.
Yeah. It's in the Pantheon.
I didn't know that.
It's okay.
But now that I know.
It's all right.
Okay. Is there anything else?
We were going to say what we were going to do after the wrap-up.
Yeah, what are we... Oh, yeah. So, next week is the wrap-up, possibly with a guest. There's another variable to that episode that, depending on the guest, may or not...
We might
be in it.
Rewatch...
something.
Mulholland Drive.
Oh, God.
I wonder if the prospective guest has seen Mulholland Drive, because I guarantee he agrees with you about it. So
I doubt it.
So think of the way you feel about Eraserhead compared to the way the guest has professed to feel about Eraserhead. That's how I feel about Mulholland Drive compared to how you feel about Mulholland Drive. It's like I don't even understand.
That's how I feel about Batman versus Superman.
I'm really excited to do our our Who's He Ding It, our Zack Snyder series.
I don't even want to do that.
I know.
I do love Watchmen and Batman vs. Superman.
See, I don't like Watchmen at all. I do like Batman v Superman. So please call it by its real title, Batman v Superman.
Okay, you're right. I should be calling it by that.
People are going to get confused otherwise.
And the V was intentional.
Yeah.
So it's a discredit to the film to not say Batman v Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Well...
After the wrap-up...
Yeah, after the wrap-up...
We're going to do Boondock Saints.
Yes.
1 and 2.
1 and 2. A 2-part series.
We're not doing both of them in one episode.
To make sure that each
one gets the... Think of this as your revenge for the David Lynch series. All right?
See, I don't know, because the significant thing about Boondock Saints is that... When's the last time... Have you ever seen it?
I think I tried to watch it when I was 17 and couldn't make it through.
Okay, so you watched part of it when you were 17.
First half.
10 years ago for you.
Yep.
I haven't seen it in years. And so this is just what's significant is that we don't know. There's no guarantee that I really like this movie. Mm-hmm. I liked it when I was a teenager, but I don't like the same things necessarily that I liked when I was 17. Yeah. So this might, have you ever noticed when you loved a movie or a TV show as a kid and then you go back and it's like your brain just like was, clearly just didn't work. Like some things that you loved when you were a kid were actually in fact great. Mm-hmm. And some of them were like, yeah, man, I don't really know why I like Care Bears so much, but it doesn't fucking make any sense.
It was saying something to me at the time. I had no idea what it was.
Power Rangers is pretty fucking garbage, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then some things like Ninja Turtles still sick. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at with Boondock Saints. I know the second one is trash. Yep. Or I have never liked the second one.
Yep.
I thought it was all right. I thought it was like fine. It sucks. Doesn't need to exist, but it's whatever. I'm not mad that it's here. Anyway. we'll be doing a 2-part series about that to make sure each movie really gets the attention it deserves.
Yes, we'll really delve into the intricate labyrinth that is the Boondock Saints duology.
What is the director of that?
Troy Duffy?
Troy Duffy.
Yeah.
We'll be getting in the Troy Duffy's Boondock Saints.
We'll be delving into the mind of the Duff.
Yeah, so that'll be 2 weeks from now.
Yep.
Next week we'll get in another fight about David Lynch movies.
Next week we'll fucking put a bow on this piece of shit.
When I started ranking them last night because I really thought Mulholland Drive was going to be like a number 2.
Yeah.
I really expected to like...
You didn't know anything about it other than that I had built it up.
But like people loved it. That's like it was like the first one that he did that finally lived up to the expectations people have had since fucking 1977.
Yeah, according to Roger Ebert at least.
Yeah. Man, who gives a shit what Roger Ebert thinks? That's what I fucking have come to learn from. He doesn't like the ones that I like, and he fucking liked Mulholland Drive.
Loved it.
Yep. What a nerd.
4 stars out of 4.
You know the problem with his system is there's not enough stars. That's
not enough granularity.
All right. We're going to wrap this up.
All right.
You can just whatever.
Follow us on
Twitter
at Ben_and_Curt.
Yes. Subscribe to the show on iTunes and Stitcher under the name Black Gold Podcast. I should probably change that since I don't do Black Gold Podcast anymore and I just do this.
But it's still like that on iTunes.
It's still the network.
Yeah.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Curtcake5K. Leave us some reviews. We got some reviews when we asked before. And
yeah. Oh, we love those reviews.
We love those reviews.
They really help us.
What do you want to see? We're gonna work on that, but we had to get this out of the way. I'm glad we did it. Well, at least I can say that I've seen these movies. But next week we're gonna get back into it.
Back to the real meat and potatoes of Ben and Curt till it hurts.
Aside from like 1 or maybe 2, when I made my draft, my first draft last night, I kind of, before I had seen Mulholland Drive, I guess I should say, for the most part, I just liked each one less than the one before it. It was pretty much like a downward spiral of me not liking these movies.
You just kind of like bowed. At first you like your back started to bend, and by the end you were like crawling on your hands and knees through the desert. Please let it end.
So that's next time. That's it, right? We did our plugs. Yeah. I think
we're done.
All right. We'll see you guys next week to wrap this thing up for good. Yeah. And then we'll do Boondock Saints after that.
Everybody, I just want you to know that I am sorry.